Now, that consultant we hired said it was very good at the beginning of the tape for me to make eye contact with the audience. He didn't say good for what, though. Continuing what we're talking about man as being the ultimate smart machine and being the supreme self-referral system, and that opinions, just in ordinary non-judgmental sense, but that opinions and points of view are like the optimum fuel to run such an energy machine, that is man, and also that opinions and points of view, rather than what would be the ordinary view if there was such, that opinions being based upon what a man is, that on the contrary, from a more complex kind of view, it would be that men are dependent upon having a point of view. That for a man to be a man, he must have opinions. And notwithstanding the fact that crude variations of this keep floating out all the way from the world of academia and philosophy into popular music, like the one by the four young lads from Liverpool. But it's always been some sort of attitude, as I said, all the way from the ivory towers into the streets, that in some way points of view, and of course it's normally used in a judgmental sense, points of view, opinions, bias, prejudice, that in some way has always been suspect, and correctly so, because what life is letting ease out through man is always the ideas of tomorrow, wherein what is the ideas of today, what are the points of view of today, become something else. They become what appears to be either accepted facts or they become dismissed, and once that happens, in a sense, they become what? That's right, history. In other words, they become irrelevant. They become traditions, or as the professor, no, it was a spokesman in the park, wasn't it? No, it was a professor, after he rearranged his trousers, pointed out that the only tolerable present rituals and traditions are dead ones. I notice that didn't get a lot tonight, but just think about all those traditions and rituals in life. Now, from an ordinary view, this is not true, and those involved, of course, would take great exception to this. But over in the city, they'll take exception, and they'll take anything else you got, so don't take it personally. But at any rate, ordinary people take exception, but notice, in life, religion being the prime suspect for this, the best area to describe, the only traditions that are honored, the only traditions that people recognize and honor are what? Dead ones. I know they don't look at it that way. I know the older parts of your nervous system would not look at it that way, and they'd say, well, they're not dead. They're based upon some kind of metaphysical, transcendental realities of people who died and came back to life, or people that were parts of gods. Still, the fact be this, for something to be a tradition, not just by its dictionary definition, at least in part, but for something to be a tradition, it can no longer have any viable reality to it. Because the truth is, it would scare the bejesus, perhaps an unfortunate figure of speech to come up with, it would scare the chicken dithers. That has a nice sound for disease to me. The chicken dithers. Yeah, less than fatal, but a little more serious perhaps than a paper cut. Godfrey can't come to school today. He has the chicken dither. His mind seems a bit feathery this morning. So we thought it best to keep him home. At any rate, the ordinary mind has always had some kind of suspicion about what it calls itself. Points of view and opinions and etc. And yet that is the prime, the optimum at any particular time and level of life, of history, is the optimum fuel to run the machinery of man. Because that which is accepted as facts, which we don't need to get any further off the track and try to debate that, but that which is just absolute at the ordinary level, widely accepted, collectively held, fait accompli, just obnoxiously obvious facts. That is not the kind of fuel that drives the secondary world. Now, if you want to get ahead of yourself, you could say it drives the primary world, as it must, but that man wrote in and asked us, is it at all possible that it goes like this? That the primary world knows what to do but can't talk about it, and the secondary can talk about it but don't know what to do. And that was his kind of provincial way of putting it. But it would be that the very things that the ordinary mind would accept as, and as I said, it already defined it in themselves as opinions, biased, half-truths, whatever they want to call it. And they always have a judgmental attitude toward it, as opposed to what they would want to say as objective, cold facts. If objective facts exist in the secondary world of man, in the intellectual world of man, they are of no consequence. They are rituals, they are traditions, they are road signs that are, in a sense, necessary, but they are so now controlling that you don't even have to look at it. Assuming that you're just a sane, ordinary person, you drive somewhere within a reasonable area of whatever the speed limit is. Not just the speed limit, but based upon the road conditions. That a sane person does not need to continually look up and see, to check what's the speed limit here. If it's pouring rain and it's a hairpin curve, a sane man does not need to look out and find out that it says slow down, or the speed limit went from 80 kilometers to 10. He doesn't need that. The secondary world of man needs the very things that it thinks of as being less than totally adequate. That is, opinions and points of view being a suspect, negative, or at least questionable term. That they say what we need are facts, and they do not need facts as they describe it. Facts would not fuel the secondary world of man. Now, in a sense, facts fuel what they would think of as facts, as opposed to this, fuel the primary, but that's of no consequence now because it doesn't need to. You'd be insane that you have to talk to yourself about the facts of the primary world. You understand that? That if you had to mark it on your clock, that you had to have somebody call you, like every morning, and say, don't forget to eat today. Or maybe call you later in the day and say, don't forget, when you get real tired, go to sleep. Well, still more or less where we were left off last time, as part of the points of view and etc., is also tied to our great, ever popular subject, according to the latest poll we took, regarding people telling what kind of guy they are. In all the ways that we have hit this about telling what kind of guy they are, people telling what kind of guy they are, consider, picking up now almost where we were, right? Sort of. That telling what kind of guy they are does not simply keep a guy being the kind of guy he is, but it in fact is necessary to make a guy any kind of guy at all. I see we're having the same success with that we had last time. The point is, if you took it as being some sort of negative observation, which Kyroots, I've let him play around with that. The point is that even tonight, that there was a guide, a reality. When he was in a frisky mood, or maybe he'd had enough of hearing about it, that he'd be sitting around with some of the creatures, and sometimes he'd begin to tell them personal anecdotes about himself. He made them all up, but he told them just the same. You could take that and others in the past from a certain kind of view and think, well, if a person was actually thinking in some new place, if a person was not just what seemed to be city-produced consciousness and intelligence, they might not be all that inclined to go around telling personal anecdotes. They might not be driven for the need to tell what kind of guy they are, which such a suspicion has some validity, inasmuch as at a secondary crude level, as you all know, religions, common sense, metaphysics, philosophy is filled with the idea of humility, on the basis, as always in the city, at that level, that in some way not telling what kind of guy you are all the time would probably please the gods. That fate in some way would smile upon a man that doesn't have to go around telling how great he is all the time. That's the way it comes out. Which sounds good enough because the sane people of the world cannot, and they say that. They'll have to go, you're right. A man shouldn't be talking about himself all the time. For one thing, if he does it, he won't have many friends because everybody else wants him to finally shut up so they can tell what kind of guy they are. It is like an unscored little chamber piece that we all play together. If you're ordinary, that you stand at a party, you and life, your dance with your family, your friends is, you tell a file about, hey, goddamn, since the last time I saw you, I almost died. Let me tell you about it. Plus, I almost wrecked my car. Plus, I almost... So, you know, first thing... But then, somewhere along the way, the great spirit of Amadeus, Papa Haydn, somewhere you understand that finally, it's enough. And you stop. And signed score, at least written, the other guy goes, pause. Into a whole new section of the music. And he goes, well, that's very interesting because I did wreck my car. The idea in that crude level is that in some way it has to do with the quality, the intensity, the unseemliness of ordinary men telling what kind of guy they are. That's what the religions, that's what the ordinary intelligence, the old intelligence tells people, that if it heard us apparently making some sort of fun about people telling what kind of guy they are, then ordinary people could hear that and go, yeah, I know what you mean, because even our religion says that, or my conscience tells me that you shouldn't go around all the time saying, hey, you can call me doctor now because I got my degree. Hey, I remember one time you were telling me that you made $50,000 last year. I just wanted to tell you, since the last time I saw you, I paid almost that much in taxes. Ordinary people will say that kind of self-trumpeting, that kind of talking about yourself to that degree is unseemly. May I suggest, if there are any would-be revolutionists in the crowd, the quality of it has nothing to do with it. It is, as some might suspect, I was playing along with the game, that some people could have heard some of this and suspect, wait a minute, it sounds like you or Kyroots or whoever these other people are around this damn show are in some way making fun or insinuating that you shouldn't even be telling what kind of guy you are anyway. You got a great suspicion center, folks, whoever said that. Because it's not the quality. There's always that kind of conventional collective wisdom, normally coming out in philosophy and religion, about, well, you shouldn't be talking about yourself. And then they began to, for those of you who never understand why Kyroots tells these stories, attacking modifiers. See, ordinary, the crude versions of everything always comes out, and they'll say, well, a man shouldn't be telling what kind of guy he is. And here come the modifiers. Stand back. Too much. Oh, all right, too much. In an overbearing manner. Oh. Well, and repetitiously. I mean, you told us last time that we were together a month ago. We had a little party, and you were telling us, yeah, I paid almost blank amount in taxes. Huh. You know, we've heard that. Tell us something. So it's always modifiers, but a man shouldn't be telling about himself too much, too loud, too often, too abrasively. Anytime you find something that if you at some sane, ordinary level to start with that struck you, whether it came from religion or out of a box of Cracker Jacks or a fortune cookie, that struck you as being a proverb, that struck you as being meaningful, whatever it was, there's something better in it. Because for one thing, take out the modifiers. They always got modifiers. If you can strip it down, if you can bring it down to what should be the kind of jacked up version that a real revolutionist would have in his front yard, because who in the hell wants a Cadillac that runs? It costs too much, and strip that mother down, put it up on blocks, and you got it there. Then if you can take what appears to be collective conventional wisdom, proverbial, religious, and otherwise, and strip it down, you would have things such as, don't tell what kind of guy you are. Oh, wait. And they wait for the rest. Don't tell what kind of guy you are too often, or when it's not your turn. Or in an overbearing manner, like you're some kind of insurance salesman from New Jersey. You know, they keep waiting for the rest. So that, you know, that's, and if they had to describe it, Not that our verbal presentation is right and theirs are wrong, you know that by now, but if they were to listen to that, they would know the ordinary mind goes, well, something's wrong. Like they're waiting. That if we just said, well, it's very important, or you could perhaps find a new way to get out of town if you would not tell what kind of guy you are. And let's say that we had started this out with important singing and had people dancing and perhaps gave out free beer. Got the crowd worked up. Opening act, some tumblers. And then somebody came out and said, all right, here is the point of this all is, do not tell what kind of guy you are. And we had the crowd worked up to where people went, oh, and they were taking notes. Oh, yeah. They would get there and they would not put a period because everybody would go, do not tell what kind of guy you are. Because something's missing. You know, put wheels on that mother and get off the blocks and we'll drive it. You know, if it'll make sense, but wait a minute. And they wouldn't know why. But all of you there chuckling, you do understand, not that there's anything verbally to understand, but you do understand that proverbial collective wisdom cannot be so direct. It's not a matter of linguistics, but it's simply that if you told ordinary people, don't talk about yourself. Don't tell what kind of guy you are. The world, in all cultures, races, religions, everywhere, is filled with people who go, yeah. But they go, because that's not all. Don't be telling what kind of guy you are. Don't be telling what kind of guy you are, comma. And if you just walked off, you said, well, that's all, good night, and you left, people go, what? God, I wish I hadn't gotten in here free because I'd want my money back. Because something's wrong. Something is wrong. And if it's not the modifiers, those of you that might want to take another quick look, if it's not just the modifiers that they expect to hear, do not tell what kind of guy you are so often or too abrasively. If it wasn't that, there is one other version I was going to try to get to, a Kyroots already pulled about brand names on certain instruments, is they would expect it to say, don't be telling what kind of guy you are, because the Quran says not to. Huh? Because God doesn't want you to. Because Moses might show up at any minute and said, what? What was that? Then people, whether they agree or disagree, whether they're religious, whether they're Christian, Jewish, whether you made a philosophical, whatever it is, as long as you would say, don't tell what kind of guy you are, but instead of putting on the kind of modifiers, if you then went from some view, don't be telling what kind of guy you are, because that's not the democratic thing to do. That's not the free market attitude to take. Whatever the hell that means, but as long as you said anything, they could go, what the hell does that mean? And then you can ignore it. Or you go, because that's not the Christian thing. Oh, well. So, whether they agree or disagree, then go, well, I'm an atheist, so it doesn't count. Or then go, here it comes, that kind of fundamentalist Christian claptrap. But just to say, don't be telling what kind of guy you are. No one finds that satisfying. That's not even good lumpy oatmeal. And the sentence makes sense. You got to admit that. The sentence makes linguistic, rhetorical sense. Do not tell what kind of guy you are. But if you had to depend on that sentence to get you lunch, you're starving, or to get you home, I hope you got strong shoe leather. Because the sentence makes sense, but it's beyond ridiculous, it's beyond paradoxical. Ordinary people, good, ordinary, intelligent minds that would hear that, if I tried to say, well, what's your reaction? What do you make of that? What would they come up? It would be somewhere beyond. It'd be a step beyond just abject foolishness. It'd be some kind of higher order foolishness. It's just nuts. They say, well, the sense makes sense, but it's meaningless. Because you have got to tell what kind of guy you are in some way. For those of you who lost your place. That's what we started out saying. That ordinary minds would say, well, a man's opinions and his points of view are based upon what he is. We did that last time. His background, his life experiences, the traumas, his subconscious motivations. that a man's opinions are they're directly tied, based upon what he is. But you just said otherwise. I mean, it took me 15 or 20 minutes of speaking for ordinary people, which is one of the nice things about playing both parts, because you can convince the other side just whenever time's running out. Unfair, unfair. Play both parts, you don't have to get insulted. Unless you want to. See, it is not the simple matter that the mind would have it that a man's opinions, his points of view, no matter how skewed, no matter how biased, no matter how unfair, that at least we know this. I mean, I'd agree with this guy over here. I mean, he got some strange views on politics, on religion. And I don't have time to go into it, but if we knew more about the guy's life, if we knew more, then we would understand. We might not appreciate it, we might not want to be around the man, but his opinions, his points of view are based upon what he is. Except for this. You kind of got it backwards. Not really literally backwards, because if you got it literally backwards in a finite world, you got nothing. It's like somebody hollering, "You're wrong." And you say, "Well, turn the stick around." And they say, "All right, I'm right." For those of you who do not remember some of those earlier, at least Western Hemisphere philosophers, Laurel and Hardy or the Three Stooges, or heads I win, tails you lose. So it's not exactly the opposite, but it's damn near close enough to understand that the points of view have no qualitative value once you realize that no matter what a man's opinion is. Again, let's assume we're talking about just fairly ordinary people, not the fringe of fanatics and lunatics by ordinary definition, but just the heart, land, the bell curve of life. Their opinions, their points of view, any idea about, well, how unbiased they are, how short-sighted they are, how weighted they are, how self-serving, that's all irrelevant. Because it is not the opinions being based upon the people. The people wouldn't be people if they didn't have opinions. And the question after that simply has to do with, all right, you sit on his chest for a while and mash the breath out of him, okay? All right, now I'll get up so that he can inhale. Oh, good. This is what's known as, are you ready? Conflicting points of view. Were it not, pick out any field you like, economics, since I know that's everyone's favorite. Yeah. Were it not for to take the two great, where's that guy's going? You think that guy was serious? He's written twice now that he was going to contribute. If you recall, that guy was going to contribute personally 500 pounds of nuts to our overseas squirrel relief fund. If I could use dichotomy, or if Kyroots could, again, just one more time in a rhyme. What appears to be the conflicting views in life, if we took economics, for instance, and narrowed it down to a dichotomy, just to make it simple, which is the only thing the ordinary mind can do anyway, and we took it to be controlled economies versus free market economies. Have I done a dangerous thing to bring up economics at 3 minutes to the end of the tape? If you took economics and you said that a man's opinion, his view of it, it had to be one or the other. If his view is attacked as being incorrect, if a man says the only way that we'll ever have equitable social conditions, financial conditions in life, is we're going to have some big, great grown person in charge of us babies that can control, that can plan the economy of our nation, of our people, in such a way that there will be an equitable distribution of the wealth. That is the only thing possible. No matter how it is put, no matter if it is the prevailing attitude of that place, of that time, you are still talking about a point of view And you're talking about a point of view that the ordinary have to attribute to an actor. That each person's mind, each person who is reacting to the situation, they attribute to who appears to be the leader, who appears to be the spokesman for that one side of one dichotomy, which is just a fancy way of all those philosophers of pointing out that it takes an AC current to run a mixer in a 3D world. The ordinary mind says, well, one of the two is not only correct, in some way it's got to be, it's not only correct, but it is a reflection of the mood of the times. There is a reflection of the man who said it. It is a reflection of all those who are out in the streets in support of a planned economy or a free market economy. There would be no secondary world if we were talking about economics, or if you want to be crude again, if we were talking about moralistic economics, good and evil, or if we were talking about intellectual economics of truth and the lack of veracity. Everyone believes, as they must, at the ordinary level, that not only given two choices, which how many do you ever have? We don't have time to have a quiz here. You know how many you got at city level. Then you can change it. You can get down one. All right, heads you lose, tails I win. Then we can play, all right, now let's play from this viewpoint. And you play again. It is known as a dichotomous game. That no matter which one is selected, no matter which view a person has, he then will attribute, his mind will attribute the conflicting view. He will attribute that as being, if he was being magnanimous, he would attribute it to being, well, that's simply this other man's opinion. He does not have all the facts. And it probably has to do with his childhood, or he was raised in Eastern Europe post-WW2, and so he grew up knowing nothing but planned economies, and so he is going to react in a predictable way. If a man did not react in a predictable way, if a man's mind did not react in any situation, or in some situation, if it was possible for a man just to have one interest in life, that yes, my life is economics. I live for economics. I eat economics. I breathe economics. I read only about economics. The only music I listen to is music related to economics, and etc. But if a man only had one interest in life, it is his viewpoint. It is his opinion. And he can be an expert, which, since time is running out, you can fill in your own definition. Now, I assume that you can be beyond cynical. But an expert, if you want to tie that together with an opinion, an expert is just somebody, fill it in yourself. Just hook the little dots together. It is impossible for the ordinary mind to see, which I guess is a good place to leave, since it's obviously that some of you are plowing in that viscid field right now. It is not possible for the intellect at the ordinary level to deal in anything other than what is in reality opinions. No matter what, that same mind can say, well, no, I do not deal in opinions. I deal in facts. I separate what I know for a fact from my opinions. There is no such thing. The ordinary mind is dealing with polarized energy. That is the only thing driving it. And the manifestation seems to be all of us that, yes, I'm a real person. Yes, my name is Hugo. My name is Gottfried. And the way you know it is, the man has views. He is a self-referring machine. And there is, from a more complex view, there is no profit whatsoever in still entertaining the idea that other people's views are in some way wrong. Which, again, almost sounds like some humanistic philosophy, if not some wide-eyed religion. That, oh, wouldn't it be great if we all realized, well, it's not up to us to judge and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. You know, the people that say that are still the same ones who are armed. Well, that's simply a dream, the same way that, tolerance. That's the word, tolerance. And all you got to do is wait, because any minute now, Captain Irony will come down the chimney and tell you the story about, yes, They all got together and they decided, we'll be tolerant. And all the great countries, all the kings got together. And the first thing they decided, well, we'll all be tolerant, yes. And the first thing they decided was, and all those who will not agree to be tolerant with us, you know what? And Captain Irony says, glad I could be of service. But there is nothing ironic. It is predictable. No one could be any kind of guy and be what the mind is always dreaming of tomorrow, and actually be somebody who is only dealing in facts, just to say that word, to end it up, as opposed to points of view, as opposed to opinions. You would not be a kind of guy. You would be a dream of your own self. You would be that which is not yet here. That sounds suspiciously like something else to me. That's your opinion. So leaving on that positive note that everything that everyone knows, especially experts, is their opinion. Which I guess in life could stir up some kind of parade, if not in the organization, of progressive thinking smartasses, cynics, soreheads, ironists. To say, yes, that's true. The whole world is just overcome by idiocy. The whole world just run by, everybody's just half-ass opinion. Nobody knows what's going on. Except for this. That's your opinion.